Welcome to the Green Racing Podcast, episode 9. We come to you in the middle of March, meeting with Jake, Raleigh, Kelsey, me. Raleigh, you got the quote of the week?
I do have the quote of the week. And it's a little bit of a different direction since the end of the season is near. And currently, How to Skate a 10K is sort of sweeping the various internets of different sports. I'm going to have a quote from Nils van der Poel's How to Skate a 10K sort of paper, basically about how he broke the world record in the 10K long track speed skating. And in this passage, he talks about his 5 days on, 2 days off training program. And the lead up to this is him talking about what am I going to do for the 2 days that I'm not going to train. And so since everyone is going to have some time where they don't have to train, I thought this was applicable. And the quote is, "It is not an easy thing to all of a sudden start living like a normal person. It was a challenge for me to discover that without my sport, I did not have my friends or as much meaning in life. For this reason, I did not rest and did not explore myself as a teenager. Instead, I identified fully with the sport and its culture." So I think that, as skiers going into April, I'm sure everyone has some ideas and some stuff to do, but it's not always an easy thing to all of a sudden start living like a normal person.
Yeah. And I think wasn't his kind of reason in sharing that piece, he goes on to talk about how he ended up really living like a normal person in these last 4 years, or these last 3 years, I guess, during those 2 days. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I think he found actually importance in adding that into his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For better or for worse. I don't know. Probably depends on the person, but
yeah. His 5-2 thing was training for 5 days, a ton, 30 hours or something, and then 2 days of rest over the weekend. So he could live like a normal person. So he could go out and hang out with his friends. And he was one of the benefits of the 2-day rest chunk is you can stay up late the first day without a workout. Or you can go to bed after the Friday session, stay up late Saturday with a whole other rest day, which I thought was interesting. There's some other good quotes in that manifesto, so maybe we'll share those as we go forward. Jake had requested a band name of the week, and the band name of the week is Stuck in Stau, which is a German take on traffic, and I was stuck in Stau just recently. It's the German word for a traffic jam. And I thought that it was a good band name. It would probably be some sort of angst. There'd definitely be impatience there. Something like that.
And because we had a long time in traffic to debate this.
And because our listeners aren't teammates or siblings with Luke, they should probably know that the quotes kind of stemmed from Luke has a list of quotes on his phone. And he also has a list of potential band names on his phone, which unsurprisingly is unbelievably long. I mean, I was actually surprised at how long it was, but
yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been going for a little while. There's probably 25 on there or something now. But if anyone I take submissions. Paul Schomer just submitted Uncertain Future, which I also thought might be apropos to the spring and when everyone's like, what are you doing next year? What are the decisions we have to make of big life decisions in the end of March and April? Uncertain Future.
Angsty names.
Yeah, definitely could have some of that angst. I mean, yeah. All right. Well, moving on to our favorite game. Where in the world are the Cedar Sprigs? A call and response format. Jake, where are the World Cup biathletes?
The World Cup biathletes are in Oslo.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you got to see some cool explorer ships at a museum, which I thought was really cool.
I went to the Fram Museum, had a great time. Spent way too long reading the things on the walls and then did not have enough time to explore the ships. You go to the ships first.
Classic museum. Raleigh, our local expert on the rowers. Where are the rowers?
Rowers are currently in Sarasota, and they are preparing for Trials 1 at Nathan Benderson Park.
Which is next week.
Yes.
Cool.
Can we give a shout out to Bridget, whose birthday was last week?
Yes, and Bridget's birthday was
Nice. Kelsey, GRP ski.
Skiers are, I think, all at this point in Whistler gearing up for Super Tour finals, which should be pretty exciting. Although I hear the weather is not going to be the sunny, pleasant t-shirt skiing that they're all hoping for.
Yeah, it's gonna rain.
Ugh.
And well, Kelsey, Raleigh, and I are in Craftsbury and gearing up for biathlon nationals, which are in Lake Placid starting on March 25th. GRP
And-
run.
GRP
I
run
don't-
applications are open. So
Yeah.
if you or somebody you know is a runner that wants to chase big goals with a diverse team, hit them up, apply.
Yeah, nice. I was going to say, I don't know where the GRP runners are, but I do know that the application is open.
They're everywhere.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. We're gonna jump right into it. I think kind of this end of the season angst. Maybe I have some of it. I don't know. There's definitely some sentimental feelings, but looking back on the season, kind of one of the questions that I think would be interesting for people to hear about or thoughts is, what are some mental and physical strategies to get through a long season? I mean, we could even go back to trials in October, almost jumps right into like racing in November, or gearing up for another trials race in December. Some of us were, I guess, Jake gone for Christmas. Sometimes it's the whole winter in Europe. Sometimes it's grinding, in Craftsbury or someplace else, and can be a long year to go all the way to biathlon nationals next week, end of March. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts about or strategies that you've done and found success with, or strategies that you wish you would have done or have heard from other people and are interested in doing in the future. I don't specific strategies, maybe also just general thoughts on like, how can you get through a long season at an elite level of sport?
I can go first. I think one general thing that I find that I think is also pretty applicable to a lot of folks is that when you get to the racing season, and this is something I struggle with, but not putting so much pressure on yourself, because you've pretty much already done most everything you can do to be as prepared as you can. No matter what, if you're an elite athlete or if you're a masters skier, a biathlete, or you're just getting ready for like a 5K running race, like given your circumstances, which can be more or less ideal, be prepared as well as you could. And it's just important to not make it any harder on yourself mentally, because racing itself is pretty difficult. So my tip would be to, trust the work that you were able to do and then just have fun from there.
Yeah, I like that.
I got 3 kind of major themes to what I think is important, because I think this is really hard. And I feel like I've had successes and failures in trying to make it through the whole season and staying engaged and motivated as well. I think the number one thing for me that I think I underrated when I was younger was the importance of taking real breaks in the middle of the season. So like, you can take 3 days off when you may not normally do that in the training season, but in the racing season, I think that's like vital, like extremely important to take some time where you like actually, maybe you go on a camping trip, or you go up to a cabin or something like that, or you go just visit friends and you do something that has nothing to do with your sport. I think especially for those of us who are like on the road for the entire winter, you have to find ways to be able to kind of like step away from your sport a little bit. And I think that also kind of goes hand in hand with like resting well during the season. So like taking off days when you need them, not on travel days if you can. I really like to try to like do a little bit of not a longer workout, but like hour and a half run or something like that on a travel day, so I can rest on a non-travel day. And I think that has been really helpful when I have been able to do that. The second thing I think is to maintain like some kind of training volume, or like some pillars of your base training through the season. Because I think so often people get to the end of the season and they're just like running on fumes because kind of the fitness base has kind of fallen out from under them. And I think being able to get in, touch on strength training like once a week, or, over Christmas break a few more times, touch on like some of the longer skis every now and then. I think that can also be really important. And then the third thing, I think there is no substitute for having like joy in what you do. Like if you don't like training and don't like ski racing, like there's no chance that you're gonna make it through the entire year with staying engaged and motivated. But if it's something that's exciting to you, you have a lot better chance of making it through. So I think no matter what you do, you got to find something, if it's a sport especially, that you really enjoy. And maybe if you're a skier out there and you're looking for something new motivation, you come try biathlon, you come to the GRP. So plug.
Let's go. Yeah, I really like all those points. I was gonna say the first one that you said about finding breaks. I think looking back at my season, like we ended up with a 3-week break in February, and that's a long break. But for me, I kind of took a break from racing. I guess I took one of those weeks as a break from shooting, and it was just really good for me mentally. And I think looking back, trying to find those like 2 to 3 day breaks that I could make for myself essentially through the racing calendar would have been helpful. And that's something I think I'll try to do next year a little bit more.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about the breaks. I think it's important to just have it. The season can feel long when you don't feel like there's parts to it. And if you just sort of feel like it's one long grind. So taking breaks is really important. I also think with looking back on this season, for me, I had a really big slump in the middle of the season. And I think part of the way I got out of that and kind of felt fresh more fresh at the end of the season was by approaching things with a little more curiosity and a little like feeling less like tied to a certain way of doing things. That like if something stops working for you, like don't be afraid, don't be so rigid that you don't mix it up or do something different, because I think that then you can kind of get excited about things in a new way that can kind of invigorate you in a way that maybe before you hadn't felt. So
Kelsey, what did you mix up that worked for you?
I did over our February break, I did some different training than I had kind of been doing before, just trying, because I just had decided, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over. It's not really working. I know I can do better. So I talked to some people and just decided to really just try something new. And I approached the break really trying to revisit my aerobic base, and also doing some different style threshold workouts that I thought were just new. It was like a new thing for me that I had read about and got kind of excited about. And then I was really excited to do intensity because I was like, what's going to happen when I do these workouts like this and like do it this way? And then what
were those workouts like?
I did double threshold days. So I did 2 threshold workouts in one day. And it allows you, I read a Norwegian study that showed that instead of doing your threshold all at once or on different days, doing them in the same, doing like a greater amount of threshold, but have it broken up within the day, can actually lead. And it's something like Jacob Inger, I'm not going to say his name right, the runner, Ingebrigtsen is doing. And it just kind of allows for you to do, because for me, something I struggle with is like recovery. And I think honestly, having the opportunity to have a threshold session that's like really threshold, like not too hard, and then have your body learn to like take a break, like cycle that lactate, and then be able to do it again later in the afternoon. So I didn't get to do it that many times, but I think it really helped. And then with my shooting, I just decided that I had a sort of a shift in how I approached my shooting during a race, because as you three know, like I like to shoot really fast and fun and kind of go for broke on the shooting sometimes, but I don't ever do that in races. And I finally just decided that I wanted to practice doing that, not feel like I needed to do anything perfectly, but that I was just practicing that in a race for like hopefully the day in the future when I can do it, on a bigger stage. And I think approaching it is like I'm just trying it out. There's no nothing to lose, and I think that gave me the space to actually have some better performances.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing that. I like that no lose mindset. I think that's something that in biathlon, it can be really hard to embrace.
Yeah. Now I want to go out and race and try it.
The Mike Gibson, our coach, and we came up with a phrase, it's all gravy. So it's like, it's all good. It's all,
It's all gravy. I mean, who
it's all
doesn't
gravy.
know?
Yeah.
It's self-explanatory.
It's delicious goodness. Anyway.
Nice. That's awesome. Thanks for the details. I think I need to be true to myself and put in a plug for, mobility on the road. I probably travel with too many mobility tools, but Kelsey does too. And if you combined our arsenals, we could mobilize a small army. And doing it after long travel days, it's so tight, and just be able to roll out on some nice, balls, or do some Graston, some massage gunning, sometimes trade massages with other people. This is something that not only am I passionate about, but I do think it helps.
And then if you're like me, you just do long stretches and you don't have to travel with an entire mobilization kit.
Wow. How long do you hold your stretches for, Jake?
I like to hold them really long after traveling. I'd like to, when I get somewhere, I like to go for a walk and get some fresh air, and then get a really good stretch in where I might do each stretch for a minute or something like that.
Okay.
If your roommates say, "Oh, big stretch," while you're doing it.
That is helpful sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I usually just go for the really strong exhale, but
Also,
every time I do a big stretch, Relly says big stretch out loud. All right, we gotta move on and allow Kelsey time to talk about Jonna Sundling. But really, I wanted to talk about Jonna Sundling, and so what I'm gonna say is that I what?
I just said she's a baller. Sorry, I shouldn't interrupt. Continue, but it's true.
She's a baller. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't know. We don't even need to make comparisons, but some of the margins that she's winning by, sort of Clabo-esque in terms of the fact that when he came onto the scene, winning qualifiers, winning heats by a lot. And she got the Olympic gold. This isn't a surprise in the last couple of weeks, but whichever one was it in Lachi, she won a qualifier by, I think, 8 seconds. That is insane. And then she won the final heat by 3 seconds. Boom. Amazing. Kelsey, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the margins she's winning by are incredible, especially over her teammates like Maya Dahlqvist, who is an elite sprinter in her own right and has, I think, still kept the sprint globe. But someone correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's true.
And so, and we saw Jonna Sundling had some good results kind of at the end of last season. I remember there was the sprint day when they were in El Risaham. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Right? Was that where they were?
American podcast. Don't stress yourself.
Yeah, I said Jonah, not Yona. Who even knows?
I think it's Jonna. Jonna. And I just remember watching her in that race that she won, being like, man, she looked really good. Just being really, really powerful. And I was surprised that I think she had a couple she had been kind of around before that, but wasn't one of the top sprinters on the Swedish team at that point. And this year, I think she just hit her form really well at the Olympics, and then has just been riding that. And I think when I watch her ski, I really am impressed with the way in which she uses the return of her leg, her off leg, to drive her momentum on her driving, on the ski that's on the ground. And I don't know if that's a good way to describe that, but I really feel like the way it's you can see in the return of her leg how it generates a lot more power. And I think I feel like probably fitness, but also just technically seems like something really clicked. And I just wonder, I think that maybe that will drive some change. I think every year there's like when Klæbo came on the scene, he was doing something that was a little bit different that just allowed him to have bigger margins. And I think that with her success this year, I think it might change sprinting technique a little bit for women, at least.
Yeah, one of the other things I thought was cool was, I mean, she's had lots of success in both techniques, not just a skate sprinter or a classic sprinter, which so often for sprinting, people can be better than one than the other. But I thought that was...
And in distance races too. I mean, she's been strong.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that like everyone was really excited about Frida Karlsson for the last couple of years, but she's been smoking Frida Karlsson in a lot of these distance races and in races like the Holmenkollen 30K, which are very steep, courses made for climbers.
Yeah.
So she's shown that she's very powerful, but also can sustain that over a long distance and up some big hills.
I think the thing Sundling can do skate skiing that's really impressive is that she can, at the same time, she can get really good pressure down on her skis while also driving her skis forward with her hip, which are like two sometimes contrasting styles. And the same is true that I think that in classic and skating, her body positioning and weight transfer is just like unbelievable. Like so perfect, so dialed. She doesn't move at all. And I think that compared to like, especially other sprinters who sometimes just like are super strong and just sort of thrash, she's just so poised and can drive her skis like with her hips and put pressure on and off them like so gracefully. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe, I think, what I was trying to describe earlier, not so eloquently.
Good job, Raleigh.
I'd add that I think like we were going on about Klæbo the other week when Kelsey got upset because we talked too long. I think the thing that just is like whether she's won a bunch of races, but what the craziest thing is, like Luke was saying, just like how she does it. I mean, what race was it when in the classic? I think it was in Oberstdorf in the Tour de Ski when she led up the final hill and had just like an amazing sprint, but then got out double poled by I think Neprieva in the finish. But now it's just like she just takes command from the gun and no one can stay with her. And the finish of some of those of the sprint races, like the one in Falun especially, it looked like it was the finish of a distance race. Like the gaps, not just between her and second place, but she strings out the entire field, like totally. So it's just like, it could be something that totally changes the style of sprinting on the women's side, just like kind of Klæbo has for the men, which makes it, I think, super interesting to watch.
Yeah. Sundling did get beat in Drammen in the final by Falla. But, can't win them all. Doesn't take away.
Didn't Falla win there last year? She's won there like the last 4 years or something.
Did she? Is she the queen of Drammen?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's what they call her in Norway.
I think to wrap up this discussion, I always like to relate like skiing things to like traditional sports, right? Because I think that, sometimes it's sort of hard to understand the gravitas of something when you're just watching it or you're just looking at the result sheet. And for me, like watching her do sprint rounds, this is like a basketball player essentially just like dunking on another team like 5 times in a row. Just like I'm gonna score no matter what, and absolutely no one can stop me. It's like watching Giannis or like Super, where they're like palming the ball and like holding it behind their head, and like, okay, now I'm gonna drive and throw this ball through the hoop and put you on a poster. And like this is like watching Sundling like every single time, and it's just one of those things where it's like you watch any great athlete, and you're just like, when like for me the standard is like they can express themselves essentially through their racing, which she certainly can do, and also it just becomes unstoppable. And that's the level that she's reached where you're watching it. And, it was sort of similar. I was watching the JN speed in the stadium with the juniors, and Ava Thurston was winning the classic race, and then the feed dropped, and the person next to me was like, "Oh man, Ava was winning," and then like the feed dropped. I'm like, she's gonna win. Like, we already know how this story ends, and I think that's how we are with Sundling. We're lining up and Sundling's just palming the ball and like looking at it, and everyone else just already knows it's gonna happen. They're like, okay, how am I gonna get second? And it's really cool to see like her sort of step up to that level. And as much as it's like, oh, you don't really know who's going to win, it's really exciting to see someone do their sport at that mountaintop level.
Yeah, for sure. I love the picture in my head of Jonna Sundling in the air with the basketball, and I think we could make like a great meme, and then we just put anyone that gets second like right underneath her that she's dunking on. All right, guys, thanks for all your thoughts. There are a couple things. Oh, Jake, you can stay until another 15 minutes.
I can stay till 8:15. Meeting got pushed back. So once again, letting people behind the fourth curtain.
But we have 10 minutes. Okay, we'll call it in like 8. We'll give ourselves another 8 minutes. Anyone else have anything they want to say about Jonna Sundling so that we can continue to talk about her? And continue to make the same joke over and over.
It's all right. Anyway, I think we can move on to.
I do. I want to add something different because we need to do her justice, just like we did Klæbo justice. It's different than Klæbo because with Klæbo we were just like, there's no way to beat him. But I think there is a way to beat Jonna Sundling. We'll still work on that pronunciation. Maybe we need to call in Lena Sutro, get a Swedish guest in here. But it's to like stay with her and out sprint her. Like it's happened multiple times. Like if it's a high speed course like in Dramen, or you're able to stay with her and be with her in the finish, I don't think her finishing speed is on par with like a Klæbo. So I think it makes it more impressive to me that she's able to do it her way every single time as of late anyway, and just like string out the field and do it that way. So I don't think it's like this mystery of it's like she has all the tools, there's no way to beat her, kind of like is with Klæbo. There's a way, but she's so good at one of those ways that like right now she's just dominant.
Yeah. Oh, this makes me want. So maybe we'll transition somewhere I wasn't expecting, but Jake and I ended up in a close talking situation with the German downhill alpine ski coach. Who's a very passionate guy. Probably had a few beers. A little too close for comfort or COVID, but great guy, super passionate about coaching. And one of the things that he was saying
like this
was about, yeah, I like that. Yeah, wow, I'm getting flashbacks. I just remember one thing. This wasn't his main thing. He was just talking about a coach like finding an athlete's strength and then just focusing on making that like even better, versus like trying to nitpick all of the things that they could get better at and then letting the strength kind of either just maintain the strength, or even like if you stop focusing on it, kind of wither away. And I feel like that's a super interesting thing to think about. It's probably nuanced depending on a person's situation and a person's strength or weaknesses. But do you guys have any thoughts on that in terms of like athlete development, either at younger, a junior level, or in like elite sport? Is it better for Klæbo, Jonna Sundling to just get very good at one thing, have the way to win, and they can try to make it happen every time? Or do they need to be able to have lots of different tools and toolkit to bring them out if people are challenging them in different ways?
I mean, I'd be curious, like, because it's not like Jonna Sundling's been racing for a while. Like, I feel like something clicked for her this year. And I don't know if what clicked is that she worked on something that had originally been a weakness, or she worked on something, or, focused on her strength. And I don't know, like, if it's not clear that either of those things are the case to me.
I think when you get to like Sundling's level, or especially in sprinting, like World Cup sprinting, so much of it comes down to confidence and execution and fine margins. So like, it's very possible, I think we noted earlier in our discussion of her form this year, that she really hit it at the right time, right? And especially in sprinting, when the margins are so small, if you have like a little bit of illness, or like the training doesn't go quite right, or you get hurt, that can have an influence because everyone's so close together. I think also, as Jake noted, it takes a lot of confidence to be like, I'm going to string out this World Cup final, essentially. And I'm going to go for it from the gun, and no one's going to be able to hang with me. And to be able to do it once, as it happens, you build the confidence, but you still have to make the decision that first time where you're just like, I'm going to go for this. And so I think that, perhaps maximizing a strength is going to give someone the mentality where they can do that and they can cultivate it in training and know that's going to work in the competition. And so I think it's, like I said, I like to relate it to other sports. Like everyone that plays in the WNBA, everyone that plays in the Premier League is like an unbelievable basketball player or soccer player, right? Like they're really, really good. And most of the time, what separates the really amazing people from like the athletes that are just sort of like, oh, well, they are in the NBA or they play in the Premier League or they're like women's Super League, regulars, but they're not amazing. It's like probably that athlete just needs to kind of hit those marginal gains and get into the headspace where they're just like, I can do anything. And then I think that that's a big part of making that jump from like elite to like, dunking on the elite, if that makes sense.
And I think that marginal gain does come from really nailing your strength. Like, I think you get to that like WNBA, NBA level by like becoming a great all-around player, right? Like there's nobody who's at that level that can't play. Okay, maybe we could argue about this, but I would say that can't play defense well, right? But like, you're not going to take the guy who like can just have the insane offensive eruption and just like nitpick his defense like crazy if the way he can put you over the edge is like by having this incredible like offensive skill. I think it's probably a similar thing in skiing. Like you have to be good at downhills. You have to be good at technical downhills. But like if you have an amazing finishing sprint, you should probably like do sprinting you have to be good at downhills to a certain level, right? So if someone like isn't technically good at downhills to be able to compete on the World Cup stage, they need to work on that. But once they're at the World Cup stage, I think it's developing the strength that's going to make that marginal gain that Raleigh's talking about. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I like that those thoughts about essentially to get there needing most of the skills and then to be able to dominate once you're there, working on the strength. I feel like that makes sense to me. As we're talking about other sports, and now we could just become like a whatever Sports Center podcast where we talk about basketball, but like there could also be a difference between like team sports and individual sports. That's where the like nitpicking in our conversation in my mind wants to go, right? Because if you could have somebody who's really good at defense, but their weakness could be covered up by somebody else. That's one of the beautiful things about team sports. Whereas individual sports, it's a little bit more like everything's on display that you have. You can't cover it up.
Yeah. I mean, or like treating teams like individuals too a little bit. But
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's about it. We wait, what's the thing in like high school? The superlatives. I think we should think about doing some superlatives for this season because I just wanted to mention one before we go, which was the like 4 weeks too late superlative. And like Sterling Ligrid just coming into form. Not only him, this is just something I want to talk about, kind of highlight the end of the season performances, for a little bit of like fun and what could have been, but also to highlight their performances in and of themselves. But it seems like Eckhoff, lesser end of his career too, coming on super strong. I've been rooting for him in every race. Not quite sure if there's the equivalent that I've seen on the FIS side of things, but I'm happy for those people. But I'm sure that they are also thinking what went wrong or where did the timeline went wrong, and that's something I would love to also get your guys' thoughts on about how can form change so much in 4 weeks? Is it mental? Is it that a load is taken off? Is it physical? Where's there overtraining? Was altitude block in the wrong spot? Things like that. So maybe we can think about that for next time. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll catch you on episode 10 next time.